Okay. Let us start. This is still actually a continuation sa chapter 1. So wala pa to siya nahuman. We will still define some terminologies here, but this will end sa computation. Pero the computation is just a review of your statistics since kailangan pa rin ang statistics sa QC. Now, even this one, even the first word that we are going to define, we have here the replicate. This is actually related to both research and statistics. Please do not interchange the two words, the trials and the replicates, if you are going to conduct research or you are going to conduct analysis. Kasi although naa sila'y similarity, pero actually they are different. When you say replicate man good, you are doing everything simultaneously, meaning at the same time. Meaning nga na, example, mag-conduct ka og testing. Mag-conduct ka og testing class. And then, example, you have a drug here. So you have same sample coming from that drug. Ite-test mo sila. Example, meron kang replicate 1, replicate 2, and replicate 3. So, example na kay test tube din ha, i-subject ni mo na siya sa testing. So, that's same sample and then same procedure. So, you will be doing the same procedure in testing the drug. And then at the same time, same time. Simultaneously man. So sabay-sabay natin ito is subject to testing. If the test tube 1 is being tested at 9 o'clock, dapat itong test tubes 2 and 3 also will be done at 9 o'clock. That's what you mean by replicates. So do not call it a replicate if it is not done at the same time. Okay? So for example, in your research, you were not able to do the testing at the same time, though same sample, same procedure, but it's not the same time. That's the time we call it a trial. So we have trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. Especially if you are alone, you are alone, like you are the ones making the experiment, the whole experiment, wala kang katulong. So hindi mo talaga siya kaya isabay lahat-lahat. Then let's just call it a trial and not a replicate. So I hope hindi na mag-interchange ang paggamit natin sa dalawang terms na yan. Okay? Replicates and trials. Now, for QC, we are very strict sa chemicals that we are going to use. Therefore, pati chemicals class, merong grades. So again, merong grades yung chemicals natin. But this is according to the quality of the chemicals and at the same time their safety and purity. So how pure they are. When you say sodium chloride, is that purely sodium chloride o baka may mga contaminants or impurities dyan? So i-grade natin sila. Yung mga higher grade chemicals, we have here the Reagent ACS. ACS means American Chemical Society. So these are chemicals that actually passed the requirements, the standards and specifications of the American Chemical Society. So how do we know na the chemical is Reagent ACS? We can actually see that sa label. Na-post ko kay dili ko kabalo mag-drawing. Okay, example, we have here a bottle of the chemical and then syempre may label yan siya. Example, this is a hydrochloric acid. Actually, you can see sa label, somewhere in the label may nakalagay dyan, Reagent ACS. So that is a high quality chemical for laboratory use. It has high purity also. And syempre, lahat pa ng other standards and specifications set by the ACS na pasa niyang chemical na yan. And you will expect also na since high quality sila, mas mahal ito compared to the other grades of our chemicals. Now another one is called the GR or the guaranteed reagent. You can also see that in the label. Example, hydrochloric acid GR. So that means it's a guaranteed reagent. It is still a high quality chemical that is suitable for analytical chemistry or sa atin sa QC. And ano yung na-meet niya na standards and specifications? Actually, ganun pa rin. Requirements pa rin ni ACS, pero pwedeng mag-exceed siya, pwedeng na-meet niya lang. Pwedeng na-meet niya or pwedeng mag-exceed pa. So that's guaranteed reagent. So kasama yan siya sa high quality chemical natin. Now sa Johnson Doctors, most of our chemicals actually ang label niyan ay AR. So analytical reagent. If you look at the stock room, so far ngayon, dati kasi medyo hindi strict with the chemicals. Pero ngayon, medyo strict na sila with the chemicals. If you really look into the stock room, you will really see the labels of the chemicals there being stored na AR grade. So when you say AR, that's analytical reagent. But this is also a high quality reagent. More or less, the standards and specifications na na-meet is similar to the American Chemical Society. Okay, and then sa QC, we will do a lot of titration process. So this one is included sa limited face-to-face. So I think Ma'am Perlado will have you do the titration process. And when we do titration, the investigation or the analysis is called volumetric analysis. So most of the time, we are looking into the concentration of our chemicals. Though most of our chemicals class are being labeled with their corresponding concentration, but in QC kasi before we use these chemicals, we have to do standardization. Meaning we really have to compute first and to look into the concentration if tama ba yung nasa label or not. And then again, we do titration for that. And those chemicals that we use for titration is called primary standard. We can only call that a primary standard if it is a high quality chemical, high purity also, as much as possible 99% purity. So though may room talaga for impurities, no, pero it's very minimal. Okay, and then for purified chemicals, these are actually chemicals with good quality pa rin naman. Kaya lang our problem is we don't have an existing official standards for them. So usually this one is limited to our inorganic chemicals. When you say inorganic chemicals, these are chemicals that don't have carbon. So purified lang sila taman, again, kasi most of them walang official standards na nag-exceed. Now, for your histology study, histology, di ba, means study of tissues, like sa inyuhang anaphisio, sa inyuhang zoology, you will be, kung naman mo anak tanan, no, I think. So supposedly, if nakakanda kayo ng experiments doon, you will also be using a lot of chemicals. And the chemicals that are used for histology methods, yung grade nila is lab grade. Again, ginagamit sila for histology studies and general laboratory application. So some of our chemicals also sa laboratory, if they are not AR grade, pwede din sila lab grade. Now, we also have chemicals na USP grade. These are chemicals that are manufactured according to the current good manufacturing practices, and at the same time, na-meet nila ang requirements ni United States Pharmacopeia. So, si United States Pharmacopeia, we have this sa school. It's like a book with all the chemicals. I mean, masyadong maraming chemicals na nandoon, and nakasulat na not just the names of the chemicals but also the standards and specifications for these chemicals in terms of their quality or their purity and other things pa na kailangan i-check for a chemical substance. And then we also have chemicals na nakapasa sa requirements ni National Formulary. So we have also the NF grade. So actually, itong USP and NF, isang book ito. Isang book sila. We have the USP NF sa school. And then lastly, we have the technical grade. Though sa technical grade, we cannot really assume whether this one is high quality. So kasi hindi natin ma-ascertain whether they passed the requirements of yung mga na-mention na ng mga institution or mga agencies. So ginagamit lang natin sila for general industrial use. Again, we call that technical grade. So actually last time when one batch performed their research work, nagpalit man sila sarili nila na alcohol. So nangutan na sila, ma'am, unsa mong paliton? Kay parehas daw ethanol, ang isa ang baligya 1,600 at tas ang isa murag 95 lang ang isa ka litro. So tingala sila nga nung naingana. Remember syempre yung lower ang price, lower din ang quality niya, so it might be technical grade lang yon. And then yung higher ang price, na medyo malayo talaga ang gap nila, I think in the label nakalagay doon AR grade. Pero for research work kasi, kung gamitin niyo lang naman yung alcohol for the extraction of plant material, then okay lang na technical grade ang gamitin. Pero if it is for quality control testing of our drugs, we don't use the technical grade. We always use the high quality types of chemicals. Okay? So sa inyo din, yung mga studies na may plant extraction, it will be using alcohol in their study. Wait lang class ha, wala na sa mong internet. Okay, let us continue. Again, for those groups na magkakaroon ng plant extraction, you may use the technical grade na alcohol lang. Pero sa QC, we don't use the technical grade. I hope that is clear. And then let me remind you na sa mga may experimental na study, sa research, lahat ng gagamitin nyo na chemicals, kung galing siya sa school, i-charge yun sa inyo. Again, i-charge yun siya sa inyo kasi that is not included sa inyong tuition ang sa research ninyo na gamit. So be careful ha, sa basing magsige na lang mo ulit sa inyong experiment, magsige na lang mo request of chemicals niya, basig daghan na kaayo ang naka-charge sa inyong account. Okay? Questions so far? Baka may gusto kayong i-clarify regarding the grades of our chemicals. Anyone? Wala? Sure na? Okay, so let us continue. Let's talk about the defects. Since this is quality control, again, this is quality control. So as much as possible, we will have to minimize or to eliminate defects sa products natin. When you say defects, these are undesirable characteristics of a product. Remember, quality means the characteristics that will satisfy our customers. But then, pag there is a presence of defect, ito yung mga undesirable. Now, we have different classifications of defects. The first one is according to measurability, whether we can measure or we have existing instrument that can measure the defect or not. The first one is called attribute defect. These are the defects that cannot be measured by any instrument. So for example, odor. After manufacturing our product, it has a characteristic odor that is not really pleasant. So since undesirable yon, and we cannot measure it under siya sa attribute defect. So does cleanliness, kasi we don't have any instrument nowadays that will measure cleanliness for our drug or pharmaceutical products. Next, we have the variable defect. So ito naman yung defects that can be measured by our instruments in the laboratory. So for example, the weight. Now, if magkakaroon na kayo ng laboratory works sa manufacturing pharmacy or you're going to have your internship, you will really see there na i-weigh lahat ng example tablet ha, i-weigh yun sila whether pumasa sila sa standards and specifications or not. So pag merong tablet na hindi pumasa doon, reject ang tawag doon. Okay? So variable defect yan siya kasi na-measure natin. So does thickness. Nagme-measure din tayo ng thickness, example ng tablet natin. Meron din tayong na-set na standards and specifications for the thickness of our tablet. But most of the time, it will be the company that will set this standard for the thickness, kung gaano ka thick yung dapat tablet na nabuo during the manufacturing process. So we can use the caliper here, like the vernier caliper, and then if there are tablets na hindi napasok doon sa standards and specifications, those tablets will be rejected also. Again, the defect is called variable defect because it can be measured by our available na mga instruments. So that's the first classification of defects according to measurability. The second type of defect is according to seriousness or gravity. So I hope nakikinig kayo ha, kasi favorite board exam question itong tatlong ito. Critical, major, and minor defect. Kasi again, we are talking about seriousness or gravity of the defect here. The first one there is called the critical defect. From the name itself, critical defect, it's a type of defect that will endanger the life or the property of our clients. Pwedeng maka-endanger and the product may be rendered useless also and non-functional. Example let me concentrate sa mga drug products lang natin ha. Example, disintegration time. Sino dito yung may knowledge or kahit konti lang na idea about disintegration time? What do you mean by that? Yan, nawala. Pag nawala akong internet, mawala po ang kay Siren, no? Kay isa man may lugar niya. Pareha siguro may globe. Nawala man ako internet, pero wala kadali kagay na. So, nag-change na po ko karon sa ako ang data. Ansa to? Pauline, pagsubo tablet, paglibang tablet Japon. Okay. When you say, tama na siya actually. When you say disintegration time, class, it's the time needed for the tablet to be broken down into fine particles. So mag-break down ang atuang tablet. Tama na siya nga. Kung dili na siya mag-disintegrate, pag inom nimo tablet, pag libang nimo tablet, gihapon na siya. So again, breaking down of a substance or breaking up of the tablet or any other oral preparation natin, yan yung disintegration time. Now, paano kung pag manufacture nila sa tablet, hindi talaga siya mag-disintegrate? Pwede kasi yan siya, class, na as in dugay, kaayo siya mag-disintegrate, dugay kayo ma-break ang tablet. It may be due to the force sa pag, di ba, powder man na siya, and then i-compress man na siya sa tableting machine para mabuo ang tablet. Pag kusog kaayo ang force sa compression, usahay gahi kaayo ang ato ang tablet, class, or kung naay mga problems sa ingredient mo nang gahi kay siya, nabagtok na itong tablet. So, gahi kayo wala, dili siya mag-disintegrate. So, dili siya mag-break. Okay? So, critical defect ang tawagan na. Kasi again, it might render our product non-functional. Kasi without the disintegration process, the active ingredient will not be released. And hindi yan siya maa-absorb sa blood and hindi yan siya aabot doon sa target site. So yan yung problema, magiging non-functional. And at the same time, it can endanger the life of our patient. Kay example, it's a maintenance drug and wala, nagsige lang siya inom niya, wala dito nag-breakdown ang iyahang tablet na nainom, wala na-absorb ang active ingredient, and thus, wala nag-take og effect. So wala siya effect kung para to siya sa hypertension, wala na control ang iyahang blood pressure. So that's the problem with a critical defect. Therefore, in the manufacturing laboratories class, I hope you can really have your manufacturing pharmacy so that you can experience all these things. Kasi doon nyo lang talaga ito ma-experience pag nag-manuf na mo. Isa sa in-process testing, di ba? We have three main areas sa QC, RM, IP, and FP. Sa in-process QC na area, isa sa ilahang ginahimo dito is the disintegration time testing. So they will really get samples of the drug products, may it be capsule or tablet, or any other dosage form na kailangan mag-disintegrate. Sinasubject talaga nila yan sa disintegration testing. So nagyud tayo existing class na disintegration tester. Nakapoy kay dugay kay siya mahuman. Kasi you will really wait for the tablet to disintegrate and record the time kung kanusa siya totally nag-breakdown. So lahi pa ang testing for dissolution. Disintegration and dissolution are two different things. When you say disintegration, it's just the breaking down of our tablets into fine particles, while dissolution, if mag-dissolve na talaga siya sa given solvent. And in our body, most likely it will be water that will dissolve our fine particles. And then hindi kasi siya ma-absorb sa lawas class pag wala na siya na-dissolve, hindi siya naging into solution. So, kana silang duha very important. So, pagka na, dili mahitabo, no disintegration time, no dissolution time, critical defect yan. And then, major defect, if it will not really endanger the life of our patient kung makita natin, but it will render the product useless. So for example, cracked bottle. If we can see this na hindi pa siya nainom, walang danger sa life ng patient natin, pero sayang na yung product. Okay? And lastly, we have the minor defect that will not really endanger the life of our patient and will not also affect the function of the drug. So it will not also be useless. So for example, defects sa labels na ay problem sa printing. Pero most of the time, kapag may problem sa label man good, especially if na-change ang iyahang color, na-change ang iyahang font, automatic manggod, the product will be labeled counterfeit drug. So it will be a fake drug. That's the first step na we will know that a product is fake or not. Sa label pa lang, makita na nato siya. So as much as possible, in the quality control area sa manufacturing laboratory, they will really see to it na the labels are correct. There is no changes even in the color, even slight discoloration, sinasali nila yan ng pag-check. Kasi again, defect pa rin ang tawag doon, although minor lang siya. Okay, questions so far sa critical, major, and minor? Again, these are favorite board exam questions sa area 6. Malay? Sure? Natulog na mo din hahan. Sira ako istorya diri niya natulog. Natulog na niya ako mga ka-istorya kay lami kaayo matulog aning orasa. Sa minor sa minor defect makategorize ang counterfeit. Actually magiging what do you call that? Kapag the problem is really on the manufacturing na iba ang color sa label, minor defect talaga yon. Pero pag counterfeit na talaga, na totoong counterfeit na ha, totoong counterfeit na. Dili lang siya taman sa minor defect. Counterfeit yun siya, fake drug. So lahi na to siya nga istorya kung tinuod siya nga counterfeit. Pero kung naa pa siya within the premises of the manufacturing lab and nakita nila na may minor defects sa label, hindi mo pa talaga siya matatawag na counterfeit pag hindi pa siya nakalabas sa market. Okay, ano ang difference ng disintegration and dissolution? Disintegration is just breaking down of our tablet into small pieces or into fine particles. So it does not necessarily mean na dissolve siya. Example na kay tubig, nag-breakdown lang siya. That's disintegration. Pero pag dissolution, yung mga fine particles talagang na-dissolve doon sa water. That's the difference between disintegration and dissolution. And when we do testings for this, iba din ang kanilang machine na ginagamit. Iba. Let me show you a picture of a disintegration tester. Actually, murag pareha silag nawong, pero they are two different things. Ilang nawong mas like aquarium. When I was an intern sa manufacturing pharmacy dati, malagot ko pag ma-assign ko sa disintegration testing. Kaya makapuy ko, malibat ko, siyempre ko gina-hypnotize, magtanaw ko sa iya, kaya nag-up and down, magandang siya. This one. Hinay akong net, di siya mulod. Tabang, mga lamit. Okay, this one, masyag aquarium, and then you will see here the time. And then you will observe, ikaw man good mismo ang mag-observe. It will not give you a signal na, oy, human na, nag-disintegrate na ang tablet. Wala yung ana sa disintegration tester. You will place here the tablets, dili man gud siya klaro ba? Pero nani siya yung mga buslot-buslot din ha, murag mga unom na sila kabuok. Isa ka tablet or isa ka capsule per hole, ibutang nimo din ha. And then, ano lang na siya, ilublob na niya sa tubig, up and down, up and down. And then ikaw mismo na nag-test, magbantay ka kung nag-break na ba ang tablet or ang capsule. And then i-record lang nimo ang time kung kanusta siya nag-breakdown into fine particles. Chapi ko usahay. Sorry kay class ha, nag-data review ko karon kay abnormal na sa nang load. Okay, I hope na ano yon na intindihan. Let us see the dissolution tester. Pero nakatry jud ko isa ka oras na panahon man ang disintegration. Kapoy ka. So almost similar ang ilahang nawong, pero lahi ni sila og ginatest. Ang katong kagaina disintegration, and then this one is for dissolution. So isang tablet lang per lalagyan. Yung sa kanina sa disintegration, sa isang lalagyan may 6 na hole. So pwedeng 6 din na tablet or capsule ang ilagay. Ito isa-isa lang. Okay niya. Iyahan ng this one is a paddle kaning naa sa tunga niya. Iyahan ng steer hangtod ma-dissolve ang imong tablet. Paano malaman if na-disintegrate na? Kapag totally nag-breakdown na ang imuhang tablet or capsule and then wala ka nang makita class na palpable core, kanang buo pa gani siya na pwede pa siya kanang hikapon or kwaon nimo. So dapat kanang nahimo jud siya fine particles. You will really see at the bottom of the container na naa dito ang mga fine particles sa tablet. That's how you know na as in very fine, very small. Ano na siya ang hudyat na humanang imong testing. Kani you will not really see the particles anymore kasi ma-dissolve na siya dito sa imuhang solvent. Pwede siya water sa dissolution, pero sometimes nag-simulate sila o gastric juice. Ay, di ba, ang atong mga tablet mo, adto sa tiyan, and then we have the gastric juice or the pancreatic juice there that will aid up sa iyahang dissolution. So usahay aside from water, nagasimulate sila. So nagabuhat silang solution that is similar to our gastric juice or sa ato ang gastric acid. Just to see whether or not mag-dissolve ang tablet or hindi. Wait lang na. Sige. Any question pa? Depende. Depende siya. Ano siya? Pwede siyang clear, pwede din siyang cloudy. Depende kasi siya sa behavior, sa characteristic ng sample natin. Tapos aside from that, lahi-lahi po silang color, depende po sa color sa tablet na gina-test. So mo na siya ako ang i-appeal og ampo gyud na maka-experience mo ana. Kasi we don't have dissolution and disintegration testers sa school. These are very expensive machines. Mga expensive gana mo na nga most likely makita nato sila sa mga laboratory nga nagagamit jud ana sa ilahang mga testings. Do sa UIC, naiingan na. Dato mong UIC, naghan mas kwarta. Ang akong balanan na ay ingana dissolution tester. Sa Davao, yes, ang UIC. Kasi naana sila, ang UIC manggod, naana sila kanang mini manufacturing laboratory. Kanang, gyud siya, murag 1/2 siya sa, di ba, ang building ng UIC taas, 1/2 siya sa isa ka side sa 5th floor na jud siya gi-set up nila na mura siya manufacturing firm. So naa sila different areas dito, production area, QC area, and then naa sila mini na disintegration tester. Dito sila nagaklase, apilay ko. Dito mi nagaklase dati if among subject is manufacturing pharmacy or DBS. And then the rest na mga machines na experience na ko siya during my internship sa Manof. So I was assigned sa Northfield Laboratory sa Bulacan. Muna ang naga-manufacture. Mostly ilahang products kay kanang mga herbal supplements, mga food supplements, niya napod sila yung mga drugs. As far as I know karon kay some of the kanaganing the generics pharmacy na mga drugs, diba na sila yung sariling label na pamupalit ka sa TGP na good sila kanang example paracetamol na TGP gyud. Tungo nang dito gina-manufacture. So si Northfield is just a toll manufacturing company. Pag sinabing toll manufacturing, they don't really own the drug, but sila ang naga-manufacture. So naay ginatawag og drug trader. So sila tong mga companies na nag-own ato nga drug. Like for example, one product ni Northfield and one product na gina-manufacture ni Northfield is ang MX3. So ang tag-iya sa MX3 na, di ba sa Davao, si Madam, nakalimutan ko sa iyang pangalan, basta I call her Madam kasi iyang butika man sad ko nag-duty dati sa ako ang community pharmacy internship. So dito na nag-manufacture sa Northfield, sila lang naghimo pero ginapadala lang nila ang mga finished product sa company. Okay? So ana na siya dito. And then mas okay ang company na ginapa-rotate ang intern kasi there are also companies na nag-accept sila ng interns pero hindi sila nagapa-rotate. Kung sa QC ka na-assign, all throughout your 200 hours na duty na alang yung sa QC, di nakakagawas. Kanya, ang uban pag sa production area na-assign, dito rin ka sa production area, maugatan ka dito. And then, katong sa mga time ang good kasi naka-rotate kami. So, nag-rotate ni ato hangtod na human na mo ang 200 hours. So, I also have I think I have 1 week sa QC na area. Parang 1 week kami sa bawat areas and then another week sa production na area and so on. Ang RightMed is actually manufactured by Unilab. Unilab owns that. It's actually like a generic form of their drugs. So example, yung Biogesic, mo na ilahang branded jud na paracetamol, actually branded generic yun na siya. And then naghimo sila og kanang cheaper na counterpart and that's the RightMed. Ginapawork me during the internship mo ra jud ka og trabahante. Pag nag-internship mo sa sa mga manufacturing firm. Actually, there are manufacturing firms na pag ting-internship na sa mga estudyante, nagbabawas sila ng trabahante. Diba? Nakatipid sila. Okay. Wala mo'y bayad ato pero magtrabaho. Magtrabaho mo. Yeah, you will really do the testing sa QC and then you will also do the computation but in supervision of the pharmacist or the chemist in charge. So ginahimo pud na siya. Dili ka hadlok. Anong hadlok man mo? But you will know a lot of kanang kapwa pharmacy students there kasi hindi lang naman kayo ang intern doon. So sa time namin may kasabayan kami na taga SPC, taga CMU. Nakalimut ako sa uban. Dugay mo ko ito. Itong tuiga, 2011. 11 years ago naman ko ito. So nakalimut na ko. Okay? So actually, ang manufacturing internship is really expensive, especially if sa Manila tayo mag-manufacturing internship. But that's one of kanang most exciting part sa pag-learn sa pharmacy. Pag padong na mo Manila, magtrabaho mo dito. Unsa basi dito di ay igat sa mukha. Sa mukha. Sa mukha. But anyway, like si Ma'am Flor, Ma'am Jan, ang ganang teacher sa Picol. So sa ano mo na siya nag-eskwela, di ba? Sige na siya nag-eskwela sa CEU. Sa CEU ba na siya nag-eskwela? I'm not sure. Pero nailhan na siya ni Cherry. Si Cherry actually ang nag-recommend sa iya ha. Kaya nagkaila sila sa internship. So ingana. Murag classmate man na niya ng kanang vlogger na pharmacist si ano yung pangalan? Archie? Ano sila? Kanang vlogger nga pharmacist na murag si pangalan niya? Archie? Oh, classmate na niya si kanang yung teacher sa Picol, si Ma'am Flor. Classmate ata na sila. If I'm not mistaken, murag na mention na niya. Classmate sila. Ayan. So, pag ano man gud pag QC, dili gud na siya maiwasan na mag-discuss pud tagamay ug manof. Kay dito man ni nato himuon sa manufacturing pharmacy or sa manufacturing laboratory ang ato ang mga testings. Ug dito ta mangita kung naay defects. So, aside from the classification according to seriousness or gravity, we also have according to nature. Humanon lang nako niha tapos mag-break ta kadali para dili pud ta mabombard sa kadaghan sa ato ang i-discuss nga straight 3 hours ang atong klase. According to nature, we have here ocular defects. These are defects that can be visible to us. Makita nato example na ay UFO. When you say UFO, unidentified floating object. Pag tan-aw nimo sa imuhang gihimo na naglutaw, that's ocular defect. So again, we call that UFO. Ginatawag jud na siya og UFO sa pharma ang unidentified floating object. So na mga foreign particulate. Actually, sa batch nila Cherry, naana sila yung manufacturing firm na pila ka buok students na na-assign dito na pag uli nila, grabe jud kaayo ang ilahang kwento kay kato siya nga firm or wala siya nagsunod sa CGMP, Current Good Manufacturing Practices. So kato nga firm nagabuhat ata silag syrup Saan to ka syrup? Pwede ko kahinamdam what specific active ingredient to siya. Pero syrup daw. So, ginabutang lang daw nila sa drum, tapos karaw-karaw sa mukha. Karaw-karawon, tapos usahay kay mahulog daw ang taklob. Example, di ba, kanang amber bottle, kanang ginasudlan mismo sa syrup, ginatakos-takos lang man daw nila, dili man siya parehas sa uban na companies na automated, they really have the machine to manufacture their products, sila kay takos-takos lang daw. Tapos pag abre sa bote, sahay daw mahulog ang taklob dito sa drum, tapos pangitaon nila using the stirrer kung unsa man ang ilang ginagamit. So mo na mga di ko kalimot kay pero kayo sila mag-istorya lain daw kayo dito yung ana and so on. Wala nila nagustuhan ba, and then actually during their time na na-raid jud to siya sa FDA. So katong certain manufacturing company na to, na-raid jud siya sa Food and Drug Administration. Well, they are there. Tapos so, nagpanic na ang everyone. So ang gihimo daw sa ila, gikulong daw sila sa CR sa mukha. Gikulong daw sila sa CR dito sa company para dili pud sila makita sa FDA. Oh, giimbudo lang. Murang nagrepack lang og mantika sa sa tindahan. So wala ilang mga na-experience pod. Wala ko'y balita na so far atong certain manufacturing company karon kay first batch lang po na naka-duty dito. Sa mga succeeding batch, wala namin nag-deploy o estudyante dito kay makatawa ko sa ilahang experience. Pero actually, ingon man good nila, pag abot daw nila dito, wala mo gud ata ilahang CI kay during that time kanang sabay-sabay bitaw nag-start og duty. Pag ingana man good, for example, kung ako ang inyuhang CI, pag sabay-sabay ang start sa inyuhang duty man good, syempre dili na ko mahati ang ako ang lawas. Sabay-sabay mo, ang isa na sa Laguna, ang isa na sa Bulacan. So ang akong ginahimuan na kanang magsayo mo og abot, na isa ka company na sayo mo abot, i-briefing ko na nadaan before ko mulipat sa isa ka company, and then mag-choose lang ko din kung kinsa ang ako ang ubanan during the first day. So ana lang ang ginahimo sa CI. So katungat time kay wala kay nagsabay-sabay, wala sila na ubanan sa ilahang CI sa first day sa ilahang duty. Tagaan lang sila instruction ug asa sila moadto. So pag-abot doon nila dito, nasaag pa sila kay dili sila katuod kung asa gud ang manufacturing firm. Unya kay sige na day sila labay-labay niya. Dili day manggod murag manufacturing firm yang no, murag man gud og balay. Murag man gud to siya balay niya napag gud hinay-hay sa kawas. So mga to siya design manufacturing firm na wala nag-follow sa CGMP, basta na-raid to siya sa company na yung mga na UFO, unidentified floating objects. Sa mukha dyan. Anyway, we also have the so-called internal defect. These are not seen. So for example, subpotent or ineffective ang tambal. So di ba dili man na nato mabalan. Usahay wala ta kabalo na kulang dai ang iyahang active ingredient, that is why wala siya nag-take og effect. Pero internal defect lang yon kasi again we cannot see it. And then we also have the so-called performance defect, which is a defect in function. So for example, we have suppository. So supposedly we will insert that sa lawas, and then nag-expecta na mag-melt siya at body temperature. Pero if may performance defect ng suppository, pag solid nimo, dili siya mag-melt kalain. So again, performance defect ang tawag ana. Another example ka ng mga meter dose inhaler nato na magkaroon og dysfunction sa inhaler mismo, performance defect ang tawag. Okay? So any questions so far? Dili ko mag-end before ta mag-take a break. Any questions sa atong mga types of defects? Wala? Sure na? So, we have here sources of variation. We have 4 M's. These are also favorite board exam question. Sources daw sa variation. We have the first one, materials. That is the reason why we have the so-called RMQC, raw materials QC, kasi pag receive pa lang ng raw materials, they have to conduct testing, they have to ensure na ang na-receive na mga raw materials are of good quality and high ang purity, kasi pag start pa lang na pangit na ang quality, ang end product sa nimo ana dili po siya nindot. So source na to siya sa variation. And then we also have the machines. That is the reason also na the machines in the laboratory, in the manufacturing firms are always being calibrated para good ang ilahang function, tama basig. Pag example, tableting machine, unya wala siya limpyo, nagtaya-taya na siya dito. Or for example, wala siya limpyo na ano yung mga particles na nag-clog dito sa ilalom, tapos pag gamit nimo ulit ang imuhang tablet, wala na siya na-form ug tarong. And then we also have the method, so that is the reason why we always have to follow the standard operating procedure. And lastly, ang workers mismo, ang mga nagtrabaho inside the firm. So actually, they are very strict when it comes sa mga tao na in and out sa manufacturing laboratory. Dati, during our orientation, kay ginaingnan jud mi ang head cap, ang gloves, ang lab gown. You are not actually allowed to wear jacket inside. So unsa pa na siya katugnaw, maggahi na ka sa katugnaw dito, you are not allowed to wear jacket. You are just allowed to wear lab gown and then your uniform inside. Ana lang. Nya tugnaw ra ba kayo dito sa tugnaw kayo sa sulod sa manufacturing firm. And then you will be asked also to wear your sock. Nakamedyas dyan na tanan dito. Pag nakalimot kag dala sa imuhang medyas, nga. Okay? Nga dyan. Actually, there was one time na nakalimot ko magdala og medyas. Gipatawag dyan ko ato sa sa office. Pero they gave me something na pwede na ko suoton. And then you are not allowed to wear makeup. Daghan kaayog mga bawal kasi that will be sources of variation. So you will know that kasi different companies, different din sila ng requirements. Okay? Questions before ta mag-break? Wala? Sure na? 20 minutes man ang break pag 3 hours, diba? Let me pause the recording.